Discover 11 spine-chilling sleepover horror stories unexplained. Sinister nights exposed. The night was supposed to sparkle with childish laughter and late-night giggles, but a chilling scream lurked just below the surface. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, 5 friends gathered for their anticipated sleepover. They stacked pillows and blankets in Megan's living room, laughter painting the walls. But it was an innocent ghost story that tipped the night into madness. "Did you hear about the Meyer house?" Jessica said, her voice trembling slightly. "It's where Emily vanished. Just gone. No body, just a flicker of a memory." The room grew still as shadows from the streetlights stretched eerily, creeping into corners like dark thoughts. Just then, a loud thump echoed outside. It cut through the laughter like a knife, the sharpness of panic gathering in their throats. "Just the wind, right?" Tommy said, swallowing hard. But a glance outside revealed darkened trees swaying suspiciously. Jess's face went pale, eyes wide with fear. Something cold slithered into the laughter, freezing it. As they continued their stories, subtle terrors crept into every creak of the house. Whispers danced on the air, seducing fear to linger. Then Jess, with a reckless determination, slipped out into the night, dismissing her friend's protests. "I'll be back in a minute," she called, her voice a wavering thread in the darkness. Panic tightened its grip the moment she didn't return. With every passing minute, their hearts raced like wild horses. What if something happened? Lena whispered, the bravery she once held crumbling. Megan clutched her phone, an empty promise of safety, as they dialed and dialed, no answer, just silence pounding in their ears. Then came another noise, closer and more rhythmic, thump, thump, thump. And Jess's absence felt like an echoing void. They huddled in the living room, shadows morphing into shapes, eyes darting to every dark corner. "She's just messing with us," Jake tried to joke, but his shaky voice betrayed him. Laughter died alongside hope. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." With every creak and whisper, the neighborhood they once loved shuddered. Memories of sunny days warped into twisted escapades of horrifying tales. What was lurking outside? Were those soft flutters of the trees, or something sinister? Their laughter felt not just hollow, but haunted. As they finally got the courage to step outside, a shadow moved beyond the flickering streetlight. Too tall, too still. It lingered just out of reach, unfurling dread deep in their bellies. They froze, breath caught in their throats. Chills spread across their skin as the cruel thought crept in: what if they weren't alone? What if this was just the beginning of a nightmare they couldn't escape? With Jess missing and dark secrets lurking in their perfect neighborhood, they felt the safety of Maplewood shatter around them, leaving a haunting question hanging in the air: what was watching them? Heavy silence enveloped the 4 friends as they peered into the darkness, uncertainty festering in their minds. "We have to find her." Lena's voice trembled, barely rising above a whisper. The others nodded, a grim acknowledgement of the growing dread driving them forward. They stepped outside, the chill of the night wrapping around them like icy fingers. Darkness expanded endlessly, punctuated only by the flickering streetlight. Megan squinted into the inky blackness. It seemed to swallow the sound of their footsteps, leaving only the pounding of their hearts to echo back. "Let us check the Meyer house," Tommy suggested, his voice wavering. "It's nearby, she might have gone there." Megan's stomach dropped. The Meyer house was a husk of rotting wood and shattered dreams, a graveyard for whispers of the past. "Are you crazy?" "No way!" she snapped. But even as she protested, the weight of fear was a tether, pulling them toward that sinister structure. "I'm not letting Jess down," Jake said, jaw clenched. "If she's in trouble, we need to help her." The others exchanged looks, and with a reluctant sigh, Megan relented. Together, they made their way through the overgrown grass, the weeds clawing at their ankles as if trying to hold them back. The crumbling front porch creaked ominously under their weight, announcing their arrival like a terrible guest at a forgotten funeral. Shadows flickered through cracked windows, and an uneasy tension hung in the air, thick like fog. "Jess!" they called out, voices breaking the stillness, yet only silence answered them. The veil of darkness thickened, and with each forward step, discomfort gnawed at them. "Let us split up," Lena suggested, biting her lip. "We can cover more ground." Megan shook her head fiercely. "No. No one goes alone." But as she said it, a chill that crawled up her spine made her wonder if they even had a choice. With grim determination, they divided into pairs, the ground beneath them whispering warnings as they ventured deeper into the belly of the house. Jake and Lena crept through a doorway into the narrow living room, items staggering on the floor, pets and trinkets left untouched. "Jess?" Jake called out, his voice echoing faintly. The walls seemed to absorb his words, returning only a blank stare. Meanwhile, Megan and Tommy made their way upstairs, each step a fight against the dread rooting them in place. The staircase groaned, and shadows danced along the walls, flickering with every shift in their movement. Megan felt the pressure of eyes watching them, unseen but palpable. "What if she's really gone?" she whispered, a surge of despair clawing at her throat. Tommy shook his head, trying to keep the fear at bay. "She's fine. She has to be," but uncertainty lingered, curling around their thoughts. Just then, a door creaked open behind them with a ghastly scrunch. They turned as the breath caught in their throats. The shadow that had been lurking in the corner of the room moved closer, its form twisting and shifting. A low voice echoed through the air, barely above a murmur. It was an abysmal sound that chilled their blood. Leave now, heart pounding, panic surged in their veins. They turned to flee down the hallway, but the silhouette blocked their way, its outline growing sharper against dim light, face still hidden. A faint odor of decay filled the air. Suddenly, a scream shattered the gloom. It was Lena's voice. "Lena!" Jake yelled, rushing towards the sound, but the air thickened, tangling his limbs, holding him back. Their hearts raced as they fought against the sinister force wrapping tighter around them. In that moment of struggle, a realization struck cold. Jess was gone, and now in the pitch-dark depths of fear they were losing each other too. What horror awaited them at the bottom of the stairs? Would they find Jess, or was it too late? The air stilled around them, drowning out the distant echoes of Lena's scream. Jake wrestled against the invisible force, his heart thundering in his chest. "I can't leave her!" he shouted, his voice raspy with fear. The dark figure loomed closer, every flicker of light making its presence more solid, more menacing. "Jake, we have to go!" Megan cried, her eyes darting around frantically. She felt the chill in her bones, a cold handshake with the unknown. But a flicker of resolve ignited within her. If they didn't act now, they might never escape. With an explosive burst of will, Jake pushed against the gripping air. He broke free, bolting towards the sound of Lena, but the path felt endless, labored breaths rasping in his throat. "Lena!" he screamed, his voice reverberating in the thick darkness, a desperate plea swallowed whole. Meanwhile, Megan grabbed Tommy's arm, pulling him with her toward the narrow hallway. "We can't get separated. We have to find the others." She dragged him along, fear fueling her steps. Each door they passed seemed to beckon. She felt the pull of dread spiking at her spine. "Is anyone else with you?" Tommy's voice trembled. The uncertainty clawed at him, a vicious animal gnashing at his sanity. Suddenly, a door flew open further down the hall, revealing an inky void. "This way!" Lena's voice floated back, barely distinguishable, tremulous. The friends hurried toward her call, though every instinct screamed that it might be a trap, a luring siren's song. They stepped inside a cluttered room, debris scattered everywhere, a time capsule of despair. Dust clung to the air like cobwebs. Their breaths quickened as they scanned the shadows for Lena. "Lena?" Jake's voice quivered, anxiety snaking through him like poison. Megan felt something cold slither around her ankle, holding her back. "Tommy! Look!" She pointed frantically as she yanked free, but the sensation twisted harder, pulling her toward an unseen abyss beneath the floorboards. Tommy reached out, desperate to help, but the energy of the house shifted. Shadows flared with sudden life. They twisted and swayed. "Run!" he yelled, panic erupting in his chest. They pushed deeper into the room, and then something crashed behind them. The house groaned in response, as if alive. A shivering breath, deep and wet, came from somewhere inside the walls. Jake's heart raced, each beat echoing in his ears like a countdown. "Megan!" The darkness seemed to drip with malice as he called out her name, fear gnawing at their bond. With trembling hands he moved to the window. The glass was blackened with grime. He wiped it with a sleeve. Outside, the streetlight flickered ominously. No one was there. An empty street filled with a choking silence. "Come on," Jake urged, but something in the room as shadows shifted again, and he felt eyes on him, watching, waiting for him to make his next move. "Megan, we have to get out," he shouted, but the words felt trapped in his throat as he turned back. A shriek erupted, soul-wrenching and twisted. It was Lena again, but something was wrong, so wrong. The friends exchanged horrified glances as the walls shuddered, a malign energy washing over them. Then came a shattering sound, a window breaking somewhere in the house. Glass sprayed across the room like deadly rain. "Get out! Now!" Tommy screamed, grabbing both Jake and Megan as they stumbled. But before they could make it to the door, the entity loomed larger, a mass of shadow and terror. It extended an arm, and the air sparked with malice. Heart pounding, Jake made a split-second decision. "We can't just leave Lena." But just then, the room plunged into darkness, a void so deep it felt tangible. "What if we don't make it?" Megan whispered, her voice cracking. "What's waiting for us out there?" A muffled scream echoed from the depths of the house, and their blood ran cold. "Do you think she's still alive?" Tommy's voice trembled, doubt creeping into his veins. All at once, fear and uncertainty twisted their insides as the darkness thickened around them. Would they stand together against the horror, or would the shadows claim them all? The tense silence settled around them again. Then they heard it, a disembodied whisper creeping into their ears. "Come find me." What awaited them beyond that chilling invitation? Would they dare to follow? The silence was suffocating. Each heartbeat thrummed in Jake's ears like a drum, heavy and relentless. Megan gripped his hand tightly, nails digging into his skin, as darkness pulsed around them. The whisper, a seductive invitation, stirred something unsettling within him. "Should we?" he stammered, glancing at Megan, desperation painting his features. But before she could reply, a low rumble filled the air, reverberating deep within the walls like an angry beast stirring from slumber. "Lena!" Tommy shouted, voice breaking, always pulling them back to the present, the concern slashing through the fear. "She needs us." He hesitated, facing the suffocating abyss, weighing the cost of action against the gnawing dread lurking in the shadows. The air shifted, thickening with palpable malice, and the dark figure solidified, a formless nightmare reflecting their deepest fears. Just then, a flicker of light broke through the gloom. A sliver of hope? Or merely a trick? "Look!" Megan pointed, both terrified and drawn in by the glimmer. It was a faded photograph pinned to the wall, illuminated just enough to reveal a face, Lena's face, distorted and racked with horror, her eyes pleading. The chill that rushed through them suffocated any brave impulse. "What the hell?" Tommy breathed, stepping closer. A shattering crash echoed again, closer, slicing through the air like glass splintering, igniting their panic. "We have to go. Now!" Megan pulled Jake back as he was about to bolt towards the door. "Wait! What if it's a trap?" she hissed, the words spilling from her lips in urgency. "Lena, didn't he sound like she was playing?" Jake shot back, his voice tight, the urge to save his friend overwhelming. "I can't." Just before he could finish, a chilling gust swept through the room, extinguishing the flicker of light, plunging them into darkness. It felt like the walls were closing in, suffocating. They couldn't stay. They couldn't wait. Tommy made a decision. "We split up," he shouted, asserting authority over the fear thrumming in the room. We cover more ground. If there's a chance, are you insane? Megan screamed, the suggestion sending a shock of terror through her. We can't. It's too dangerous. But Jake felt the pull of urgency. The photograph haunted him, begging for action. Tommy's right. We have to search for her before it's too late. Swallowed by the dark, they moved as one, limbs heavy and filled with dread. Jake clutched Megan's arm, left with little choice, as Tommy dashed down the hallway. They followed, uncertainty brewing, and just then, the entity's presence grew thicker, suffocating them, pushing them apart, its force trying to wrench them from each other. See, come on! Megan stammered, panic blooming in her chest, even as the shadows beckoned. The walls whispered, a symphony of sinister sounds swaying in eerie harmony. There's got to be another way. This place feels. A visceral scream broke their fragile resolve. It wasn't just Lena anymore, others echoed in chorus, a cacophony that curled around them, saying what they dared not voice. Lena! Jake shouted again, voice cracking, its urgency cresting. The air shifted again, thick and choking, and they caught a glimpse of something flitting through the corner of their eyes, visions of shadowed figures flashing past like nightmares made real. They were not alone. I don't think we're safe here, Megan gasped, feeling the walls close in, the terror of what lay behind each door clawing at her. Stick close, Tommy urged, but Jake felt the shadows grow bolder, heavier, casting fingers that entangled around his heart. A glimmer again, a whisper carried softly through the darkness, drawing him deeper. Come find me, and as the whisper echoed, something dark shifted in the corridor, a figure taking shape, closer than ever before, eyes glinting with malice when they heard it. A final, soul-stirring reminder washed over them. Are you brave enough to confront your fears? Would they face it together, or was this a moment of reckoning they couldn't survive? The question lingered, thick with dread, as the shadows began to close in around them. The darkness pressed down harder, smothering them like a dense fog. Jake could feel his breath quickening, a raw panic clawing at his throat. Megan! He gasped, but the name felt like a whisper lost in the abyss. Just ahead, a doorway loomed, barely visible, its outline like a mouth gaping wide. Tommy rushed towards it, the soles of his shoes squeaking against the damp floor, an unwelcome reminder of their surroundings. This way! He called back, desperation chasing his voice. But as they closed in, the air grew heavier, thick with a sense of dread they could taste. Wait! Megan's voice sliced through the uncertainty, the sound of it both a warning and a plea. What if something's in there? Her eyes darted toward the shadows flanking them, her expression muddled with terror. Before Jake could respond, the whisper returned, more insistent, swirling around them like smoke. Come find me. It was unmistakably Lena's voice, refining itself into something darker, more sinister. It seeped into their bones, compelling. Stay here, Jake said, pushing forward alongside Tommy, not ready to let fear dictate their actions. He stumbled through the doorway, eyes adjusting to the darkness within. It felt like stepping into a void where time had forgotten its purpose. Megan hesitated, anchored in place, but the urgency of the situation pulled her through the threshold. The small room was lined with shadows, corners that seemed to swirl deeper into nothing. What once might have been mundane, the remnants of furniture, stray papers littering the floor, now felt like a graveyard of forgotten memories. Is there a light? Jake whispered, his heart racing, trying to pierce through the encroaching gloom. He could sense it then, the coldness that crept along his skin, sluggish and stifling. Tommy searched frantically, hands brushing against the debris. Over here! A click echoed, and an old lamp sputtered to life, casting a feeble yellow glow. The light revealed the photograph again, now hung on the wall behind them, its edges curled, a sinister anchor that held Lena's image captive. But now, beside her was another shadowed figure, looming, lurking just behind. Who's that? Megan whispered, eyes wide as she pointed. That's not, Jake muttered, frozen at the sight. The figure's eyes glinted malevolently, an echo of something familiar yet twisted. A cold sweat dripped down the nape of his neck. Suddenly the room quaked. Dust rained down, and an unseen force slammed the door shut behind them with a deafening bang. It echoed in their minds, a finality that turned Jake's limbs to stone. "Lena!" Tommy called now in a wretched tone, the panic seeping through. "We have to get out." But as they circled back, shadows swirled around them thick as fog and singing with the echoes of lost souls. They pressed against the door, but it wouldn't budge, a prison they had unwittingly sealed themselves within. "Megan! Back away!" Jake shouted as a flash of light burst from the far corner. The image from the photograph began to ripple, swirling like liquid, and the figure stepped into the light, ethereal, almost human. "It's her," Megan gasped, stepping forward. But the figure, eyes glimmering with something between hope and despair, began to twist. "No, no!" The darkness surged, whipping against them, cracking. Jake could feel its pull dragging him towards the apparition, towards something both horrifying and desperately familiar. "Jake! Grab her!" Tommy yelled. But a shriek rang out, slicing through their panic, and with it, the walls began to moan, a collective anguish echoing as the shadows twisted into shapes, ideals of their fears. "What are we doing here?" Jake screamed. He was losing himself, the voices slashing through his resolve. No answer came, only the whispering chorus wrapping around their minds, growing, expanding, each one a reminder of what they could lose. And just as the air thickened, a shadow lunged from behind, seizing reality as they knew it. Darkness poured in, and the light flickered violently. "Is this where Lena is?" Jake thought, as the shadows were drawn back and forth. A masquerade dance of horror threatening to consume them. There they stood, suspended in suffocating dread, remnants of laughter now replaced by desperation. "Jake!" Megan cried, tugging at him, but he felt himself being pulled in two directions. All hell was on the edge of breaking loose. And as the noise crescendoed, a cacophony of torment tumbling from the shadows, Jake realized what they truly had to confront was not just the dark but the truth they were too afraid to reveal. Would they have the courage to face what lay in the depths of the darkness? As the walls closed in, a chilling thought sliced through the chaos. What if the only way out is to confront the nightmare? The room pulsed around them, a living entity that breathed darkness. Shadows writhed, whispering secrets and regrets, a symphony of lost souls urging Jake, Megan, and Tommy toward the brink of madness. "Stay close!" Jake shouted, his voice cracking. He could barely hear himself over the cacophony enveloping them, screams from the dark, echoes of despair that seemed to entrap their very essence. "Megan!" Tommy's voice broke through the swirling noise, a lifeline tethered to her presence. "We need to find a way out." He grabbed her arm, desperately looking at the doors like a trapped animal searching for an escape. But the door had become a solid wall, a sentinel that denied their pleas. Jake lunged toward it, fists pounding, but an unseen force repelled him back. It was like hitting a steel barrier. The shadows laughed, their chilling sound reverberating through the air, thick with malice. "You broke the rules," they seemed to chant. "What rules?" Megan cried, her wide eyes shimmering with confusion. Suddenly, the photograph on the wall pulsated again, and Jake turned just in time to see the shadowy figure step deeper into the light. It looked more distinct now, a shimmer of something recognizable clawing its way up through the darkness, a face he'd thought lost forever. "Lena?" he breathed, the name carrying a weight of hope and horror. But the ghostly visage twisted, morphing into something grotesque, its smile sharp and teeth glistening with dark intent. "You came for me," it whispered, and with every syllable, Jake felt the darkness wrap tighter around his heart. "No!" Tommy shouted, backing away from the apparition. "This isn't her." The air thickened, suffocating, as shadows danced frantically, their forms changing. Figures emerged, haunting echoes of lost lives, reaching out to him with skeletal hands. "Don't you see?" they wailed. "We tried to escape. But you trapped us." Jake staggered back, stumbling into Megan, who held on tight, her fingers digging into his flesh. "Jake, we can't stay here. We have to break through." Her voice, laced with panic, ricocheted within his skull. With a surge of desperation, they turned as one, running toward the figure that bore Lena's face, a beacon of both hope and terror. But just as they reached out, it dissolved into black mist, a cruel trick, mocking their futile attempts. The shadows surged, a wave of darkness rising around them, clawing at their sanity. "It's you!" they cried in unison, a haunting echo that thrummed with malevolence. "You're the key! What does that mean?" Jake gasped, struggling to comprehend the crashing tides of shadow and fear. The walls absorbed his voice, pushing him back against the door as if to swallow him whole. "Remember," the shadows whispered. "Remember and choose." A sharp flash erupted from the corner where light struggled to breach the darkness, and Jake's vision blurred as memories flooded in moments of laughter with Lena, whispers of secrets shared, and the last time he saw her smiling face before everything went wrong. "No!" he screamed, falling to his knees. "We have to let her go." But the shadows chortled, circling closer, each breath heavier with despair. "You have to confront your truth," they taunted. As visions of past choices clouded his mind, he felt the weight of their collective regret, a dark guilt weighing down his heart. The darkness stirred around, feeding off of it, restless, hungry for more. "What do you mean?" Jake spat, his voice trembling. "What truth?" A laughter rang out, shrill and echoing through the hollow room, spilling over like a broken dam. "It's within you, what you did, who you chose to leave behind." A piercing scream ripped through the air, louder than the darkness. Megan's voice, filled with anguish and determination. "No! You won't take him!" The room shuddered violently, and the shadows recoiled as though struck. For a fleeting moment, a crack formed in the oppressive weight, a promise that maybe there was still a chance to break free. Jake glanced at Megan, her face fierce and alive against the uncertainty. "We can't let this thing hold us. We have to fight." And then something clicked inside him, something sharp and blinding, a resolve ignited. "Then let us confront it." As the shadows surged again, this time Jake felt a shift within himself, a glimmer of strength. Together they faced the darkness, hearts pounding, knowing they might either break free or lose everything. But was this revelation enough to save them? The shadows whispered promises of despair, clinging tightly. Would they push forward, or would the secrets consume them? Just then, a chilling laughter echoed, deep and rumbling, as an ancient warning slipped through the air. "Are you prepared for the truth?" The air crackled with an electric tension. Jake felt a chill skitter down his spine, as if the shadows themselves were breathing life into his fears. He could see Megan's determination etched on her face, but doubt flickered in the back of his mind. Was confronting the truth truly their path to escape, or would it draw them deeper into this nightmare? Together, he urged, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. "We have to hold on to each other." Megan nodded, but the shadows swirled, intent on splintering their bond. "You think you can face us?" they hissed, laughter dripping with malice. "You think truth will set you free?" Jake's heart raced, pounding like a war drum. He clutched Megan's hand tightly, their knuckles widening. "What do we do?" he whispered urgently. "Focus!" Tommy yelled, his voice battling the din of despair. "Think about what happened. We need to face it head on." The shadows shrieked, growing bolder. Visions danced before Jake's eyes: a stormy night, a devastating choice, the last moment he had with Lena before she slipped away, forever lost. Darkness washed over him as guilt threatened to drown every ounce of hope left. "No! I won't let you take us!" he shouted, his voice rising above the fray. He stumbled forward, pulling Megan with him, forcing himself to confront the fears clawing at him. The shadows recoiled, but then surged forward, hungry and eager to consume. "You cannot escape your past," they yelled. "It feasts on you." Jake's pulse drummed in his ears. "We are not defined by our mistakes." His voice was stronger now, igniting something in this living darkness. He recalled moments before the storm, memories tinged with light. "Remember the laughter," he urged, "the moments that made you feel alive." A flicker of warmth blossomed in his chest, and he poured that memory into the shadows. They distorted, hesitating as the blows of joy countered their darkness. "No!" They hissed, their form quaking. Tommy joined him, pushing against the shadows. You don't feed on us anymore. He squeezed Megan's hand, bolstering the weight of their shared resolve. Together, Megan cried, finding strength in unity. We remember together. The shadows screeched, their forms starting to dissolve, pulsing back as if recoiling from the light within their souls. But then, a voice, deep and ominous, rose above them. You believe your light can extinguish centuries of darkness? The shadows fused back together, stronger now, almost laughing. You are merely mere echoes, incomplete and weak. Do you hear that? Jake uttered, heart racing again. We have to return to the central point. What did we leave behind? What are we missing? Tommy's expression shifted. Lena! It has to be her. We have to confront her. As soon as the name left his lips, the room darkened, swirling wildly. The shadows began to form once more, shifting and molding into a singular figure. Lena's silhouette emerged from the depths, hazy and faint, her once beloved features twisted into a mask of sorrow. You're back, she whispered, voice trembling, as if she too struggled against the unyielding pull of darkness surrounding her. Jake's heart shattered. Lena! We want to leave you! The apparition smiled, a grotesque parody of affection. But you forgot you chose to leave me behind. No! He screamed, the truth piercing through him like a knife. The shadows rejoiced, their rapture swelling. Jake understood now, this was the truth he had tried to escape. Megan gripped him tighter. Don't listen. We've got this. We're stronger together. Yet Jake felt the suffocating weight of guilt claw at his insides. How do we save you? He struggled to breathe, faced with the choice that haunted him. Lena's voice echoed, dripping tears. You must choose once more. What choice lay before him now? He was on the edge, teetering between salvation and despair. The walls pulsed, whispering promises and curses. Could he choose a path that would save them all, or were they destined to become part of this darkness forever? And then all at once, the shadows surged forward, another ancient voice intertwined with Lena's, asking, What will you sacrifice? Jake's heart pounded violently against his ribs. What will you sacrifice? The question sent a cold shiver through him, like icy fingers clutching at his throat. He could feel the shadows creeping closer, their whispers laced with temptation. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, but Lena's teary gaze held him captive. I don't know, he shouted, desperation curling his voice. He wanted to reach out, to touch her, to anchor himself in those beloved memories. But now, those memories felt twisted, filled with regret and unbearable weight. The shadows tightened their grip around him, encircling his mind with dread. Sacrifice your past. Sacrifice your memories of her, they hissed, their presence growing oppressive. Only then will you have a chance to save her. Megan stood firm by Jake's side. No! It's a trick! She pulled him back, trying to shield him from the darkness pressing in on all sides. Her voice was fierce, despite the tremor that betrayed her fear. Lena wouldn't want that. But Lena's form flickered, the sorrow in her eyes deepening. You have to decide, she murmured. I can't break the bonds of this place unless you let go. Jake felt panic spill over him like a tidal wave. What are you saying? He fell silent, breathless, struggling to decipher her words. If I let go, if I forget you, the shadows echoed his fears, weaving their tendrils around his nights, turning silence into screams. You feared my absence, Lena said, her image shimmering like a ghost caught between worlds. Then fear my permanence. Tommy's voice broke through the darkness, urgent and raw. Jake. Remember why you fought to find her. Fight for her memory, not against it. With every ounce of will, Jake focused on the peals of laughter, the light he felt during their summers together, the simple moments that made everything worthwhile. Snippets of their time together sparked like fireworks, illuminating the gloom. No! He shouted, pushing against the shadows that threatened to engulf him. I want to lose her again. For a heartbeat, the shadows hesitated. Jake held on to the threads of love, casting them outward like nets. I choose all of it. Every moment, every mistake. I'll carry them, they're mine. Energy pulsed through him, a tangible warmth that stirred the icy despair around them. Megan stepped forward, locking eyes with Lena. We'll both carry her with us. We won't abandon her or our past. The shadows writhed, and the ground beneath them trembled violently, as if the world itself was in revolt. You defy the essence of darkness? They screeched, panic filtering through their ghastly laughter. Jake felt it. A surge of defiance ignited a blaze in his chest. We don't fear you! He screamed, as the memories intertwined, weaving strong threads that held the darkness at bay. The shadows twisted and shrieked, their forms disintegrating against the newfound light. You will regret this choice, echoed the ancient voice, layered within the chaos. The darkness will find a way back. Suddenly, the spectral form of Lena halted, static and heavy in the air, a flicker of a smile crossing her face. Then let it come. We are stronger now, united. But beneath the bravado, Jake felt doubt clawing at his mind. Had they truly won, or had they just stirred something darker? As the shadows fought against the light, Jake's heart sank. The room spun, shadows swirling once more, creating a vortex. Would this be the true awakening, or was a more profound terror lurking in the depths? And then he heard it, a low, chilling whisper in the background, distinct and chilling. You dare challenge me? You have only begun to find what you must face. The ground shifted beneath them, and Jake braced himself for what was to come. What lay beyond this moment? What terrors awaited them in a darkness more formidable than they had ever known? The air was thick with tension, the kind that wrapped itself around Jake like a suffocating blanket. He struggled to breathe, heart racing, as reality bent and twisted before him. The vortex of shadows roared with a life of its own, churning and snapping at their heels. Every flicker of Lena's form felt like a painful reminder of the stakes. Stay close, he shouted, reaching for Megan's hand. Her grip was tight, comforting, yet he could feel her trembling beside him. This was no ordinary battle. This was a war of the soul, a collision of memories and darkness that threatened to tear them apart. The shadows surged, a wave of despair crashing into them. You think you can fight? The voice twisted, an amalgam of anguish and rage. With each word, the darkness pulsed, its rancid breath enveloping them, turning the very air stale and icy. Together, remember? Jake spoke through clenched teeth, trying to project strength. He knew that their unity was a shield, one that should hold against the encroaching dread. We're not backing down. Lena's silhouette flickered again, caught in a flash of chaotic energy. Jake, focus! Dive deeper into your love for me. Her voice tried to cut through the chaotic maelstrom, but it echoed like a fading melody against the relentless storm. I'm anchored in every memory we've shared. Desperation clawed at him, and he pushed through layers of the past. The laughter by the lake, the warmth of summer nights, their first shy kiss, each moment was a lifeline in the darkness. But each time he reached for them, shadows clawed at the edges, threatening to snatch them away. What happens if we fail? Megan cried out, her voice strained. What if we can't hold on? Then we face whatever comes. Jake shouted back, refusing to let doubt seep into his resolve. We've come too far. I won't lose anyone else. With that final declaration, a fierce light surged from within him, radiating like a sun breaking through a storm. He felt it, a wave of warmth, vibrating through his bones. It spiraled outward toward the shadows, illuminating the faces of lost souls that writhed in pain, cursed to wander relentlessly. Enough! The darkness roared, its voice sharper than ice. You believe your light can extinguish me? Jake's hands shook, both with fear and newfound strength. I believe in us, he bellowed. The brightness erupted from his chest, enveloping them. Megan's eyes shone, reflecting back the power they shared. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage that threatened to shatter their ears. It was a frantic, chaotic dance, light against darkness, love against despair. Jake felt the echoes of those trapped in between, pleading for release from eternal torment. But amidst the chaos, uncertainty seeped back in, chilling his spine. What if this light only angered the darkness further? What if it unleashed something they weren't ready to face? Just as the radiance began to swell, the tones shifted. The shadows contorted, morphing into grotesque silhouettes. Faces melted into a horrific visage. You think this was about her? They hissed, filling the air with a palpable malice. You've only revealed a fragment of what is to come. Then darkness vanished, leaving the room in cold silence, echoing with dread. Jake stumbled back, heart racing as the shadows retreated, leaving an unsettling stillness in their wake. He and Megan stood amidst flickering memories, anguish coursing through their veins. What just happened? Megan's voice trembled, uncertainty etched on her face. I don't know, Jake replied, dread knotted tight in his stomach. But I don't think it's over. And the air shifted yet again, crackling with foreboding. In that eerie stillness, a single chilling thought pierced through Jake's mind. What slumbering horrors had they just awakened? As the silence stretched unendingly, they could almost hear the soft echo of laughter threading through the shadows, a laughter that didn't belong to the ones who'd come before. Something worse was waiting, lurking just out of sight, and it hungered. What awaited them now in the darkness had not yet shown its true form. The darkness held its breath, and the unimaginable terror lingered like a thick fog, curling around them. Jake, Megan, and Tommy stood shoulder to shoulder, their hearts racing, adrenaline coursing through their veins. They had come so far, almost touched the light, but now it felt like they were standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering on the brink of despair. Where is Lena? Megan stammered, her voice laced with anguish. The shadows seemed to pulse in response to her words, acknowledging the pain they had brought. The room was alive with whispers, a mournful cacophony that echoed off the walls. Jake squeezed her hand tighter, grounding them both as he fought back the darkness threatening to swallow them whole. We have to keep moving, Tommy urged, the courage in his voice pushing back the veil of fear. Jake nodded, taking a step forward, determination ignited from within. Together, he commanded, their mantra echoing in the dusky silence. As they pressed deeper into the heart of the Meyer house, the shadows thickened, swirling like a living entity keen on consuming every shred of hope they possessed. The air felt electric, charged with an undercurrent of fury and despair. Face your fears, the ominous voice slithered through the darkness, as if summoned by their resolve. You thought love could conquer all? Watch as it unravels. A sudden, blinding flash lit the space around them. There, within it, appeared flashes of their shared moments, happy memories twisted into grotesque parodies, shadows of laughter turning into painful echoes. They saw a glimpse of Lena, her face obscured by an oppressive darkness, tears lining her eyes as she reached out, her mouth moving in silent pleas. No! Lena! Jake screamed, but the shadows surged, blocking their advance, wrapping around him like ice-cold chains. Let her go! He yelled again, even as despair sunk deep into his heart. Why should we? You forgot her. You let darkness cloud your love. The voices taunted, and the shadows morphed into specters of their worst nightmares. Visions of betrayal and regret danced before him. Megan, don't! Tommy suddenly shouted, as if knowing she was teetering on the brink of succumbing to despair. We can't let ourselves believe this. Believe in the light, believe in the truth. Jake cried, forcing himself to step forward, to confront the truths he had tried to bury. We remember. We still love her. You cannot take that away. The shadows recoiled as if struck, their forms wavering under the intensity of their bond. Is it love you speak of? Or mere longing? They hissed, growing feeble, but Jake felt the weight of history tethering him, felt the light they all had shared growing stronger. Megan found strength in his words, passionate and bold. It doesn't matter how you twist our past. We are here, together, facing you. And you cannot change that. As they pressed ahead, the shadows seemed to waver before them like smoke in the wind. They were on the verge of collapsing, the weight of darkness beginning to lift. But then, just as suddenly, the shadows surged back, stronger than before. You have no idea what you've awakened, they screeched, the many voices unraveling into chaos. The floor quaked, and through the fragmented darkness, Lena's figure emerged, again transformed into something more sinister, yet familiar. "Jake, help me!" she cried, but now the grief in her voice was tinged with anger. "You chose to forget." "No, Lena! I would never forget you!" he shouted back, fear and love crashing into each other like crashing waves. "Then remember. You wanted to stay, you wanted to bury the truth." The shadows twisted, forming images moments where Jake chose his own safety over hers, a dark reflection of choices that shattered his heart. Jake staggered back, gripping Megan and Tommy as he struggled against the crushing weight of guilt. "That's not true. I've never stopped searching for you," he countered, voice ringing strong, but it wavered as doubt clung to him. The shadows howled in fury, swirling around them like a storm of despair. "You cannot escape your choices. You cannot escape the past." In that moment of despair, something shifted within Jake. He felt a flicker of warmth, memories not just tainted but cherished. "No," he whispered, the realization crashing over him like a tidal wave. "I will not forsake who we were. We were more than just shadows or screams. We were laughter, dreams, we were whole." The shadows faltered, as if a light began to shine through their darkened hearts. "Maybe we can confront it together," he said, turning to Megan and Tommy. "Remember all of it, our joy, our pain, our memories. They help define us." With a collective surge, they linked hands, pushing toward the core of darkness that roiled in the center of the room. The light within them flickered, but it flared higher with every step they took, illuminating the swirling void of shadows. The malevolent presence shrieked as memories flooded the air like a cascade of light. Laughter echoed around them as hands joined in unity, painting a riot of vivid colors in the darkness. "No!" the shadows screamed, recoiling, losing form as light drowned out their malevolence. "You're only digging your graves." "Then let us!" Jake shouted defiantly, pushing forth. He recalled everything, the moments that mattered most, the love they shared. Lena's figure shimmered, growing clearer, hopeful. "Fight for me, for us," she implored, her voice matching the strength in their hearts. And then, with a blinding explosion of light, the shadows shattered, and the air filled with the sound of breaking glass and cries, dissolving the darkness that clung so ferociously. In a final rush of energy, the shadows collapsed into nothingness. The house trembled, returning to silence, but the weight of despair was lifted, and they could breathe again. Standing together, Jake, Megan, and Tommy looked around at the remnants of their battle, the echoes of shared laughter surrounding them like whispers of kinship reaching across the void. The darkness had retreated, and as dawn began to break through the windows, a new sense of hope flickered into being. "Lena?" Jake breathed, a lingering question threading through his heart. "I'm here," her voice emerged softly, gentle and full of warmth. The pain was gone from her expression. She stood before them, restored and radiant, the darkness fading from her eyes. "We found you," he replied, overwhelmed. "Thank you," Lena whispered, embracing him. "Together, we faced it. Together, our love was more powerful than the darkness." As the sun spilled through the shattered windows, illuminating the remnants of their childhood refuge, they understood a truth: the darkness might invade, but love could always lead the way back home. And as they stepped into the light, they knew their shared bond was unbreakable, a promise forged in the heart of darkness, forever resonating in laughter and love, echoing hope amidst the shadows. This was the final moment of their fear, a beautiful beginning that would forge the path ahead. Now, before you go, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Let's keep this community thriving. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I'm eager to hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything. Join the family today.